I watched the first 4 Purge movies to prepare for the Forever Purge, and I have notes. Now, I have seen all of these once before when... Oh my goodness. We gotta talk about titles. Man, if you thought the Fast and Furious titles were confusing. The first film released in the Purge franchise was called The Purge. The sequel that was released the next year, I believe. First one was 2013. Second one, 2014, was The Purge Anarchy. Followed in 2016 by The Purge Election Year. And then, why would you do this? Why? In 2018, they released a prequel called The First Purge. So the 4th movie is called The First Purge, which is what you would probably call the first movie, right? The First Purge. So what I'm going to try to do in this video is refer to the 4th film released, which is the first film chronologically, but the 4th film released I'm going to try to refer as the prequel, and the first film released, which I believe is the 2nd film chronologically, I'm going to refer to as the original film. We'll see if I can keep that straight. So when the prequel film was coming out in theaters, I watched the first 3 for the first time leading up to that. I think I rented them online or something. I didn't have physical copies of them. I just watched the movies, and I had never seen any of them before, so that was my first time watching them. So this is now my rewatch. I didn't really have a clear memory of what happened in which film. I kind of remembered some characters and some plot lines, but I didn't remember what happened in which ones. So what I've done here is I took notes during my viewings. And some notes are specific to the storylines or the characters or the plots of the films. And then some notes in my section down here are just generic questions that I have about a world in which the Purge exists. And how would things work? What would these things mean? So it's kind of I'm going to be asking a bunch of questions that I don't have answers for. Now, the first question I think I need to bring up is, in 2013, when the original film was released, if you had asked me if I thought that it would ever be possible that we would live in a world with something like the Purge, I would have said no. But if you would ask me that now, I'm not sure that I would say no. And I think that's why I wasn't interested in these films when they first came out. I knew about them, never sought them out. And then when I saw marketing for the prequel film, it suddenly became more interesting to me because it seems like we're working toward a place where something like this is not as ridiculous as it used to sound, which is a scary thought. So I don't want to get too much into the politics of it because I like my movies to make me feel better, not worse. So I'm going to get into this. There will be some spoilers included in here. So if you haven't seen these films and you don't want anything to be spoiled, this is probably not a good video for you to watch. I'm not going to specifically spoil things. They're just some things that I'm mentioning that are going to be spoilerish, just based on the nature of things. So I watched them in chronological order because the first time that I watched them, I watched them in release date order. The original film, Anarchy, Election Year, prequel film. So this time I watched them chronologically: prequel film, original film, Anarchy, Election Year. I assume I've seen trailers for the Forever Purge, but I haven't paid much attention to them. I don't really know anything about it. So I assume that it takes place after the most after election year, furthest in the timeline, but I don't know that 100%. But that's what I assume. So I'm going to go in chronological order. So my notes on the prequel film, the first one that I watched, one of the main characters, his name is Dimitri, and I wrote down, this was more true earlier in the movie, and it becomes less true as the movie goes on, but I wrote down, Dimitri usually only fires as many bullets as are necessary, which I appreciated, because so many times in movies like this, people will just fire off dozens of rounds, and if you know anything about how magazines work, and you know how many rounds fit into a standard magazine, it's ridiculous that people will shoot for several minutes without ever reloading, and you don't need to shoot someone 20 times to kill them. So I thought I appreciated the realism of someone who knows what he's doing. Couple well-placed shots, that's all he needs. So I took note of that. I also just wrote the power outage moment was awesome when they breached the apartment building. Not much more to say about that. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And this is not specifically about this movie, but I wanted to make a comment of it. Usually, when I am rewatching stuff that I've already seen, or if I'm watching something for the first time, but it's got a lot of dead space, so a lot of TV shows that have to fill a certain amount of time, usually I watch things on 1.5 speed. I watch a lot of YouTube stuff on 1.5 speed. I listen to podcasts at a faster speed. I get bored very easily with a lot of dead space. So many TV shows waste so much time with establishing shots, and again, they just have to fill up their runtime the same amount of time every week. And so I found that for the most part, I can watch things at 1.5 speed. If there's a really cool action sequence or something like that, I will slow it down. I might rewind it and rewatch it again. But for the most part, things that I've seen before or things that I anticipate are going to have a lot of dead air, I watch on 1.5 speed. And I started the movie like that because that's just my default. And very quickly, I took it down to normal speed because these movies don't have a lot of dead air. They're brisk movies. I think 3 of them are about an hour and a half. And then one of them I think is closer to 2 hours. But man, I just rewatched all the Fast movies last week. And most of those are over 2 hours. And they do not need to be. So I appreciate movies that aren't longer than they need to be. Have a very focused storyline. And not a lot of dead space. Not a lot of establishing shots. Wasting my time. So it was nice to be able to watch something at regular speed and not feel slow. So, well done. Well paced. That's all I got for the prequel film. I took more notes as the films went on. Although, like I said, a lot of the notes that I took, I've got in this separate section, separate from the films. So we'll get there soon. So the original film from 2013. I wrote that because I remembered some elements and storylines, but not necessarily when they were established. And even back in the original film, it was established that there was very much a rich versus poor class warfare theme going on. But back then, it was more implied, which I'll get to more later. So I just was making a note to myself that the series has always been about that, and it's just expanded more on it in more recent films. But even from the original one, that's what it was about. They say when they're announcing the start of the Purge in the original film that government officials ranking 10 and above are off limits. And I wonder if... So in the prequel film, we see that people voted for the Purge to be a thing. I wonder if that would fly. I wonder if the people would actually vote for something like this if they knew at the time that government officials would be off limits, or in the world, even in the world, I don't know if they knew that when they voted it, or if they voted it in, and then we're told later, by the way, these important people that we say are important, they're off limits, but you guys aren't important, so you're not off limits. So I'm just curious about the timing of that. And again, as scary as it is, I'm not sure that something like this couldn't pass a vote if it was brought up today. But I do wonder if we would let it fly, that government officials are off limits. My next note, again, these movies are often about the rich versus the poor, and it was interesting to me that the rich people in the original film are shown to be capable. They can fight, they can, defend themselves. You would think a movie that's anti-rich would show them as completely, terrified and unable to do anything to defend themselves because they're not used to doing that. But I wrote, they do establish that the main characters in this movie used to be poor. So I guess they have those skills from when they were poor. And just now they're rich. It's just interesting how these movies go back and forth with what they want to say about the rich and the poor. And then my last note specific to this movie is Mary sucks. Mary's the wife. She sucks. For the third film, or the second film released, third film chronologically, The Purge, Anarchy, I think this is probably my favorite one in the series. My only note is Shane sucks. That's my only note specific to that film. Like I said, a lot of my notes ended up in this other section, but I really liked Anarchy. I really like Frank Grillo and his character. I like him as an actor, and I like his character in the film. But Shane sucks. Glad he died. Which I didn't mention this, I don't think. Something I like about this style of film, I guess you could, some people call them anthology films. There's not a lot of returning characters. And what that means is that anyone can die, right? If you have a big franchise that's been going for several movies, you're pretty sure certain characters aren't going to die. All right, or things with Marvel movies, or Fast and Furious movies, if a main character dies, they're probably going to come back later on. But with these movies, main characters can die, and it doesn't affect the franchise because there's not a lot of returning characters from film to film. So I really like that, and even though I'd seen them before, I couldn't remember who died and who survived. So when I saw people die, even though I've seen them before, I was surprised again because I didn't remember. So I really like the freedom that the movies have in that sense. And that I'm going to be doing a separate video later on about the TV series. Because there are 2 seasons of TV in the Purge universe. And that continues into the TV show. So that, which I had not watched before. But there are several main characters that you meet throughout the season. And some of them die. And you don't know who it's going to be. So I really like that. I remember I had a conversation once with somebody who said that he finds movies boring because the hero's not going to die, right? That doesn't happen. And so having movies where they can, and they do, is kind of a nice change of pace. So on to the Purge election year. This one is my least favorite in the series. So most of these are complaints. My first note, the film confirms that The Purge is done for political and monetary reasons. I think, this is why I don't like this film as much, I think the films are better when they raise questions, not give answers. So it's always implied that it's a political thing and that it benefits the rich and blah, blah, blah. And the movies, I think, work better when we assume that based on what we know about the real world. But when the movie just comes out and says, yeah, this is what's happening, then it's not as thought-provoking because we're just told what to think rather than being able to make our own opinions based on our own views. So that was disappointing. this came out in 2016, and every time there's a presidential election, everybody suddenly thinks that they're a political expert and they know what they're talking about. And so it seemed like there was a little bit of commentary on that in this film with one of the characters, Marcos, talking about the election. And he's like, all she needs to do is win Florida. And if she wins Florida, she gets these votes. And then she's set and blah, 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 blah. Florida's the key, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like the idea that something as complicated as a presidential campaign could be simplified to just win that state. Just get the old people to vote for you. I think the movie was kind of making a dig at people that act like that in real life. And that amused me because those people are annoying. I've been that person before, right? I'll be honest, but I'm annoying when I do that, and other people are annoying when they do that. In this film, they say that politicians are no longer off limits. So that ties back into my earlier question of, would that actually fly? Would people vote for that? And in the world of the films, did they vote for that? Or was it a rule that was established after they voted to bring in the Purge? I feel like I had another note with that, but it must be somewhere else. Yeah, okay. It comes in later. But basically, they announced that either the day before the Purge or the day of the Purge. And it's like, how does that... Can you change the rules for this a day before? Are you assuming that everyone's going to have access to news and see it? Or do the people that don't see that, they're just SOL and it doesn't matter if they don't know about the rules? What other rules can you change? Can you change what weapons are allowed? Can you change what crimes are allowed? The idea that they could just change a rule, such a big rule, with a day's notice, doesn't really make sense. Maybe I'm questioning these movies too much, but I got very much into questioning mode while watching these. The movie has a lot of riots in DC. This came out in 2016. That happens now. That's a reality of the world that we live in now. That's why I'm saying I'm not as positive that something like this would not, if it was brought up to a vote, I'm not positive that it would fail the vote. Because the things that these movies show and predict and suggest are happening in the real world. There's a fairly big spotlight put on this character who tries to steal a candy bar from this little convenience store. And the guy doesn't let her do it and causes a big fuss, and so she leaves, and then she comes back later during the Purge to purge, and she says she's going to kill this guy and destroy his store because she wants a candy bar. And both the idea that someone's going to put this much time and effort into getting revenge over a candy bar when you could go anywhere and steal a candy bar, that is stupid. And also the idea that a shop owner that knows that it's Purge Day and the Purge is going to start in a couple hours is really going to make a huge fuss over one candy bar. I don't believe either of those two things. And I think things like that make this movie worse. It's not believable. There's a lot of terrible things that people do in these movies that I could believe that someone would do. Rounding up a dozen friends and getting chainsaws specifically designed to cut through barricades for a candy bar. I don't think anyone is that, because they don't even establish that the two characters have a history, right? They're nasty to each other in the moment, but surely she's got other people that she's got bigger problems with that she would be focusing her attention on. The idea that, oh, I didn't get this candy bar, and I can't get a candy bar anywhere else on Purge Night, so I'm going to focus all my attention on this guy. I don't buy it. Again, just things in the other movies were like put out for you to do with what you wanted. And in this movie, they're like shoving it at you. They're like this and this and this and this. And my next note is that the main military guy, the main bad guy, he's way over the top. He's got Confederate flags on his uniforms, and he's got face tattoos. And the movie clearly wants to show you, this guy's a bad guy. Look at all this bad stuff. And it's just like, just have him be a military guy, working for the government, killing people for money. That's what we have in other movies. Do you think those weren't enough? You have to put on what you perceive as negative visual aspects because you don't trust the audience to understand that somebody that this political party is paying to murder people isn't a good guy. Like, again, they just shove it in your face, and it's overkill. I wrote, this movie is heavy on religion, but nobody points out that sins don't always align with laws. So one of the people running for president in this movie is a minister, and there's this whole religious element to the Purge, and they keep saying, yes, this will make you pure, and this will purify you, and they talk about blood baptism because it's legal, right? They're like, it's not wrong because it's not illegal. Religion is not the same as legal. What's right by your religion is not the same as... There are things that are legal that the religion in this film is Christianity that's focused on. There are things that are legal that are sins in Christianity. And, there are things that Christianity might not specifically say is a sin, but that are illegal, right? Those are not the same things. So the idea that an established religion saying that things that their religion says are bad is okay to do when it's not against the law, that's not how it works. Why would that be any different on Purge Night? Why should that be any different on Purge Night, right? The Bible doesn't say not to speed, but you don't hear people talking about how, well, the Bible doesn't say not to speed, so it doesn't matter what the law says. Like, what religion says and what the law says are different things. And the fact that something's not illegal doesn't mean that it's allowed by a particular religion. And no one in the movie points that out. Like, dumb, stupid. Again, this movie, it feels like the simplest one. Like they're aiming for the simplest audience. Maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, but they're just shoving stuff in your face. These people bad, these people good. Religion bad, right? This political party bad. Poor people good. And it's just like, we need more nuance. Otherwise, it's just, I don't know. Then my last note for this movie, they say something at the end of the film about the political party, the NFFA, reacting violently to the anti-purge movement growing. And this is just like, this is a thing that happens in real life. Some group wants something. They want something to be allowed. They want something to happen. And then their opponents either... I guess in this case, their opponents have different ideals and different beliefs, and they want to make their voices heard. And these other people are like, I don't know how to explain what I'm talking about. But the concept of my voice gets to be heard, my opinion gets to be heard, but yours doesn't. And if you're going to try to make your opinion heard, that makes me upset. Even though you're not stopping me from saying my opinion, you're just trying to get your opinion heard as much as mine. That still infringes on me. I want just my opinion to be heard and not your opinion. That's a real thing that we deal with in the real world. And I found it interesting that they mirror that in the films. Although it's just a tiny little line at the end of the movie. I wish we had more ambiguous things like that. Although I guess if they had put it in more in this movie, it would have been shoved in my face too much. So maybe that's better. All right, what time am I at? 25 minutes. Wow. Let's talk about some generic Purge questions, concepts, ideas. I wrote down, it's like a modern Rambo story. I love the Rambo movies, but they're a little outdated at this point. And I wrote that down for the prequel film, specifically about Dimitri. And there's a lot of elements, I think, that are comparable between the two films. So, the newest Rambo movie was not any good. So I'm glad there are Rambo-esque movies still around that I can enjoy. Rapid fire questions. Would people vote for this? Some people, I think, yes. Many people, I think, yes. Enough to get it voted in? I would hope not. But I think there's a lot of people that would vote for this. The movie says that weapons class 4 and below are permitted. I don't know what weapon classes are. I don't know if that's a real thing or if it's something made up for the world of the movie. Again, they say government officials of ranking 10 and above are off limits. I don't know if those are real levels, and if they are, I don't know what they are. So, you know, the words are scrolling on the screen while they're saying this. So I feel like they could have put up an image so that if it is a real world thing, people like me that don't know what those are could know. And if it's not a real world thing, everybody watching could know. Maybe I should have done my homework. I don't know. I don't think movies should have homework. Next question. So these movies very much imply that the Purge is more impactful against poor people. More poor people die than rich people, and many people in the world of the movies believe that it only exists to get rid of poor people. So the question is, if the poor were killed, would the rich be content? And then my next question in connection with that is, if the poor were killed, would other people become poor? Do the goalposts shift? Are middle-income families now considered poor? So the idea of getting rid of the poor, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be any poor. It just means that now the bar for what is considered poor is higher. And this is just one of those things with how people think and how societies think. And you would think most people, if this is true, that the Purge targets the poor, most people that are not rich should be against it. Because they should realize that if I help with killing the poor, and the poor are gone, now I'm the poor. And now I'm going to be targeted by the rich. But people don't think like that. Would a purge really reduce crime? So one of the reasons that the governments say that the purge is allowed is because overall crime is down. People purge everything on one night, and the rest of the year, crime is down. I don't believe that that would be the case. And in some of the films, and especially in the TV shows, they imply that that is not true, that those studies and whatnot are inaccurate or falsified by the political party. I absolutely think that's what would happen in real life, that whatever party or group of people, if it's not a political party, whoever brought it into place would absolutely falsify reports to make it seem like it's more successful than it is, because they have their own reasons for wanting it there. But I like that. So far, I haven't watched the second season of the show yet, but so far I don't think they've ever specifically said that it doesn't work. They just imply it. So that's one of those things that I like, that I can decide how I think that would go based on my opinions. The films and the shows haven't told me yet that is a lie. They imply that it's a lie, but they haven't told me that. There's a concept about the rich people buying victims, and that's how the wealthy purge, so they don't have to go out and risk themselves on purge night. They hire people to go out and get people for them, or there's one film where a guy volunteers himself if the poor people pay his family. That's kind of his life insurance in a way, his way of providing for his family. I don't have much to say on that. It's just, again, that's a thing that I think would happen, and that's really depressing. In a lot of these movies and TV episodes, people hide under beds and in closets. And I just wrote, would that still work? There's no way. If you're a killer out purging, and you know someone's in an apartment, and you can't see them, the first place you're going to look is under the bed and in the closet. And the fact that so many people go there first, I mean, I guess you can ask, where else would they hide? But it's like, it's so cliche at this point. I would, if someone was trying to get into my house, I would never think to hide under the bed or in a closet. I would find somewhere else to hide. And if I lived in a world where the purge was a thing, I would have a non-under-the-bed, non-closet place ready to go so that I wouldn't have to think of it in the moment. I would just have a place. Okay. Multiple movies, multiple TV shows talking about multiple locations. Keep saying things like, this place is completely secure. It's totally secure. It's 100% secure. They established in the first movie released, the original film, that even a super expensive, high-tech security system is not enough to keep people out if they really want in. And so, when you establish that in your original film, and then every subsequent project you keep having characters, and it's shown in that film that it's not sufficient, and then in every subsequent thing you have people that still believe that this little piece of metal is going to be enough to keep people out. It drives me bonkers every time someone says something like that. I already talked about changing rules the day before the purge. There's a moment in election year where the insurance companies change their rates on purge day, right before purge night, or maybe it was the day before. And it's like, how would things like that work? Would that be legal? Should that be legal? That seems like, whatever political party is in place allowing the purge should put limits on things like that. But would they? I don't know. Okay, there are a couple different things that are said throughout the movies. People say it's an unwritten purge rule. And one of the bigger ones is that you don't mess with the medics that are out driving around. I do not buy for a second that would be successful enough to be considered an unwritten purge rule, because there are some messed up people in the world that would absolutely target those vans and target those people trying to help. In one of the movies, people go to a church, and it's like there are people that would target those. And the fact that these movies think that the world is messed up enough to, or the country is messed up enough to vote for the purge, but decent enough to not target these people that are actively countering what they're out there to do, it's contradictory to me. They say things like, humans want order, humans want rules, Purge Night just messes with this. But again, you're talking about Purge Night, though. So if they're ever going to let that slide, it's going to be on that night. Okay. I wrote down at one point that I would love some Purge project that's similar to Ready or Not, which we kind of get elements of, but the idea that one person thinks that there's going to be this big party and that they're safe and that they're with trusted people, but everybody else is aware that, they're going to purge this girl. And that sounds like Ready or Not, but in Ready or Not, it's still illegal. They're just doing it anyway. Spoiler alert for Ready or Not. But the idea of that kind of stuff happening in the purge where it's not illegal and they realize that, calling the cops is not an option, right? Escaping and getting help is not an option. And then I also wrote, I would love something done 24 style. So the TV shows, they're 10 episodes each, and each episode is about an hour. But again, they vary, which I love because they're only as long as they need to be. But the Purge only lasts for 12 hours. So I would love a project, a TV series, which the series is canceled now, so it's not going to happen. But I would love it to get 12 episodes, an hour each, do the whole split screen thing, and we're literally following people in real time in a limited environment. I think that would be super cool. I would be super interested in something like that. Some people talk about getting out of the country during Purge Night so that they're protected and that they're safe. And I think it's kind of mentioned that, again, that's a thing that wealthy people can do, but not poor people. There would absolutely be a company, multiple businesses, multiple companies specializing in we'll get you out of the country for 12 hours for cheap. The fact that none of that is mentioned in any of the projects that I've watched is bizarre. With all the ads and banks and car dealerships and credit unions and loan officers, what places that give out loans, I don't know what those are called, loan agencies that target the poor and talk about you don't need good credit, you don't, you can give us the title of your car, blah, 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 blah. There would be something in place for massive amounts of poor people to be able to afford getting out of the country for 12 hours. Because, if you offer a service to 2 people for $100 each, or 200 people for $1 each, you're making the same amount of money. And the poor people are not going to complain if they're in closer quarters and if there's not as many amenities. So there would absolutely be a business in place offering that service at an affordable cost that most people could take advantage of. And the fact that that's not mentioned at all, maybe it is in the second season of the show, I haven't watched that yet, but the fact that it hasn't been mentioned yet, am I the genius here? Am I the guy that's going to make $1 million doing this? Oh man. People talk about having Purge playlists and Purge games. We don't see them play any Purge games other than Decide Who Wins is the last one shown. I don't want to say that I'd like to see more of that, but I'm interested in what more of that would look like. Coming back to things that you establish in the original film that you don't follow up on, there have been no advancements in the security systems that we see on screen. Right? We see the top of the line, fanciest security systems in the original film. We see it fail pretty easily. And yet, throughout all the other projects, nothing else, nothing new has come up, nothing more advanced, nothing more secure. In the years afterwards, the world is still just satisfied with, it's good enough to keep most people out unless they really want in. I don't think that would be the case. I think, you're at that point, you're not talking about adding security systems to an existing building. You're talking about companies creating new buildings where the entire building is specifically designed to keep people out. It's not a gate that you put over your doors and windows. It's a fortress. That would be happening if the Purge was real. Oh, what else do we have? I just wrote down in election year when they're locking down the senator's house, the barricades move so slow. And I don't know why. I feel like in earlier films they move faster. And just think of the gates that businesses put down. They just roll down. And I get that you want mechanical elements to keep it from being lifted, but they move so slow. And in the TV series, which I don't want to talk about too much in this video about the films, but we see people sneaking in. We see how long, if you want to let someone in, how long they do that in the original film. They let someone in, and it takes forever. And it's they should be quick. They should be fast. So that things like that aren't as much of a problem. In election year, we get murder tourists, which are foreigners from other countries coming to America specifically to purge on Purge night because they don't have it in the other countries yet. And it's just that's something I would not have thought of, but that is absolutely something that would happen. But it's weird to me that the movies thought of that, but not companies that get the poor out of the country for 12 hours. They get companies that bring people in for 12 hours, but not that. That could be the same company, right? You drop off the foreigners, pick up the people that want out, take them out for 12 hours, and then come back, and then take all the people back to their other countries. Could be the same company, doubling their money. Oh my goodness, that bothers me. At one point I wrote, "Bring out your dead," which reminded me of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, because they have a dead body collection service. How's that making money, right? How are there people doing that but not getting people out of the country? Who does? Some of the things they think of are clever, and some of the things they think of, I'm just why though? Who's going to do that? Who's paying for that? Is the government paying for that? Are taxes paying for that? Oh, man. At one point, I just wrote down the audacity of calling yourselves the new founding fathers. So the NFFA, the main political party that's focused on in these movies, the new founding fathers of America. Just like, how full of yourself do you have to be to call yourselves the new founding fathers? I'm not a historian. I'm pretty sure the founding fathers didn't call themselves the founding fathers. I'm pretty sure that was something that other people labeled them as after the fact. And again, it makes sense because people are like this in real life, but it's just a, gag moment. Someone being like, I'm a new founding father. Making a bit, gross. Okay. This next note. This is not specific to these movies. It drives me crazy when there's a movie and the protagonist has a gun and the antagonist is in the room and the protagonist is pointing the gun at them and the antagonist says something like, you don't have the guts to pull the trigger, you're not going to do it, blah, 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 blah. And they act like the only choice is kill them or do nothing. There are so many other options. If you're worried about them chasing you, shoot them in the foot or the knee or the leg. If you're worried about them using a weapon or strangling you, shoot them in the hands or the arms. If you're worried about both of those things, put a bullet in each kneecap and each palm. Like, you can shoot someone to disable them in the moment without having to have the guilt of killing someone on your soul. And oh my gosh, this happens so many times in movies in general, and in these movies in particular, and it just bothers me. Boom, boom, one in each kneecap, run away, you're good. He's not going to be coming after you. Oh, a lot of these movies, at the start of the plot, there are characters that are out and about taking care of business before commencement, as it's called, the start of the Purge. And, oh no, my car broke down. Or, oh no, this street is closed. Oh no, this happened. Oh no, this happened. I wrote down, don't transfer Michael Myers on Halloween. And don't go out on Purge night. Because in almost all the Halloween movies, they're transferring Michael Myers on Halloween and something horribly goes. And I'm like, how many times has that happened before you say to yourself, you know what? I know we're supposed to transfer this guy. Let's wait a week. Let's not do it on Halloween. Because the last 3 times that we tried transferring him on Halloween, he got out and murdered 20 people. Why are you out on Purge night? If you are not within walking distance of your house, why are you out on Purge night? Nothing that they show these characters doing is that important. That you're out on Purge night. Take the day off. Call in sick. People do it for real holidays. People do it for the Super Bowl. Why are people not doing that for the Purge? I don't know. Something I wrote down. I'm shocked that I haven't seen this. There would be people that get excavators and bulldozers and just level buildings down. Just completely knock houses down, knock stores down, whatever they want. I think that would be fun to watch. And we haven't seen any of that, which I think is surprising. People come in with these big chainsaws to cut through the gates and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, just get a bulldozer. Just knock it down. Boom. You got it. You're in. I quickly wrote down, how does insurance work? They talk about insurance for a bit. How would that work? And then we get the whole thing with the rates changing the day of. I'm not going to spend too much time on it right now. And then my last note, which goes back to what I just said about, I would enjoy watching that. Like with the Hunger Games, I'm the bad guy. The viewers of these movies are the bad guys. Because we enjoy watching people suffer. And the fact that there's a successful franchise built on the concept that I, as a viewer, am going to enjoy watching people get hurt, that's a problem. I'm part of the problem. I'm the bad guy. Because I enjoy these movies. So those are my thoughts. Holy cow, 45 minutes. Those are my thoughts on the first 4 Purge movies. I will be doing another video specifically about the plots and the characters in the television series. And I will be doing another video on the new film, The Forever Purge. Which I don't know if I missed this question or if I didn't put it down. I believe this film is going to answer my question of, would people really stop when the sirens go off? Because most of the time, the bad guys of these movies and the TV shows, they're like in it, right? Full on in it. And then the sirens go off and they're like, okay, well, I guess I'll try to kill you next year, right? They're done. Everything is done and de-escalates immediately. I don't believe for a second that that's how it would go. And it seems like this movie is going to address that. So I'm looking forward to that. Hope it's good. Hope it's not like election year. Hope it's like the other ones. Those are my thoughts on The Purge. What are your thoughts on The Purge? Let me know. Please don't come to my house and kill me. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.